and absolutely opposing this deal.
Grant Robertson.
Mr. Chair, for that. Mr. Chair, I want to refer to the first clause within Part 2 of the bill, and that is where we have a discussion about the regulatory concessions that have been authorised. And I particularly want to refer members of the House to Clause 6.2. The regulatory concessions prevail if a regulatory concession is inconsistent with any provision of the gambling law, and the application of the provision of the gambling law is modified accordingly. Let's just stop and think for a minute what that clause means. It means that a deal, as we have traversed, a dodgy deal done without the proper information to other applicants, with the Prime Minister's paw prints all over it, an appalling deal done by the government which is costing the taxpayer, costing New Zealanders, that deal trumps gambling law. That's the message the National Party is sending out tonight. The 2003 Gambling Act, with its purpose to minimise the harm caused by gambling, is trashed by a shoddy agreement that lines the pockets of Sky City and that takes away from many New Zealanders money that they can ill afford to have taken away. That is the point of Clause 6.2. The National Party should be ashamed to be supporting a clause that says the will of this Parliament is out the door. They didn't even have the gumption to come in and amend the gambling law because they couldn't, because this bill is against the purpose of the gambling law. So instead they override that law with an agreement signed in a back room. A deal done with the National Party's mates is more important to them than the sovereign right of this Parliament to make laws, and they should be ashamed of Clause 6.2. Because the regulatory concessions that are being talked about in Clause 6 are not minor. Let's run through them again and make sure people understand what we're talking about here. There's the extension of the licence to 2048. And as my colleague Trevor Mallard has said, within that period where that licence has been extended, there should have been 2 full reviews of that licence. Mr. Chair, I had a bit to do with the 2003 Gambling Act as an official or a person who worked in this building. And I can tell you that one of the main roles that was to be played in the review process was a thorough look at the levels of gambling harm that were being caused. And those 2 reviews are gone on this licence, and that is shameful. 40 extra gaming tables. 17% increase in gaming machines that can take more than $20 notes. Ticket in, ticket out, cashless gaming. These are the kinds of regulatory concessions that have been talked about here. A huge increase in gaming machines. They're the concessions, they're the things that break the spirit of the Gambling Act that Clause 6 says that's fine. Well, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we do not believe it is fine, and neither do the officials. Because the regulatory impact statement makes absolutely clear, and I'll read it from paragraph 33. These concessions raise concerns about a potential increase in the incidence of problem gambling due to the subsequent increase in gambling opportunities at Sky City's Auckland Casino. And David Shearer just said it. If this is all about the high rollers, the people who come to these international conventions from around the world, they don't play the pokies. They don't go into places like this to play pokey machines. The people who will be lured in to play those pokey machines will be the people who can least afford it. Will be the people, and we know this about pokey machines. Class 4 gambling is the most addictive there is. And this bill, these concessions that are now being put in place by Clause 6, mean that there will be more pokey machines, more opportunities, Mr. Speaker. But then we go on to the question of cashless gaming. Now, there's been a lot of research around the world about the impact that it has to actually put money into a machine. It's an action you have to do. Once you move to cashless gaming, to cards, to ticket in, ticket out machines, you take away from people the decision that they are going to put money in. And here we are in this bill, in Clause 6, Mr Chair,
Grant Robertson.
in Clause 6, saying it is okay to have 17% more machines that'll take higher denominations and that will lead to cashless gaming. Cashless gaming will make problem gambling worse, and that is what is put in place with these concessions. Mr Speaker, here's something, Mr Chair, here's something I don't know if I ever thought I'd see in a regulatory impact statement. This is what the official said in paragraph 97. There are aspects of the regulatory concessions that potentially raise the risk of money laundering through Sky City. Oh, well, that's just a casual little comment there from the Treasury officials. We're looking at money laundering. Now, this is a result of the ticket in, ticket out arrangements, which do allow for the prospect of people using them to put money in. Trevor Mallard's already raised the concerns about the kind of pressures that can be put on people in a venue like Sky City, in the case, the very unfortunate case of the Chinese student from a couple of years ago. Well, here we've got the officials telling us money laundering's on the way at Sky City. So there is another risk, not accounted for by the government, not defended by the government, simply put into this deal in order for Sky City, who, frankly, Mr Chair, had a ball negotiating this. They've done extremely well for themselves and their shareholders. Where was the government? Where was the government defending New Zealanders? Where was the government saying, no, we've actually got gambling laws that are about reducing gambling harm. We've got an Auckland Council that's got a sinking lid on gaming machines. We're going to defend that. That could have been the response of the government. They could have said, actually, you know what, we really want this convention centre built, but these regulatory concessions go against the spirit of our laws, against what the Auckland Council has been trying to do. We're not going to agree to it. Sorry, Sky City, it was a nice negotiating with you. We're going to go back and talk to the other 4 people who actually did want to build this convention centre, but no. The government didn't do that because they were neck deep in this dodgy deal led by the Prime Minister, who directed his officials to work with Sky City in a different manner to how other groups who were tendering were being worked with, where meetings were held with the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, where information was handed over to Sky City. Again, the officials started raising concerns about this. Ploughing on went the government to do this dodgy deal. And now in Clause 6, Mr Speaker, we have the shameful sight of the regulatory concessions that I've just worked through prevailing above and beyond gambling law. And Mr Chair, that is a completely shameful position to find ourselves in this House. And Mr Chair, it's worth noting on the question of the licence and the licence extending through to 2048 that Sky City have completely done the government over here, because all of the calculations show us they'll make their money back miles in advance of 2048. They have got a great deal here. And not only have they got a great financial deal, New Zealanders are done out of the reviews. Why? Why on earth have the government decided not to even have the reviews? All right, extend the licence as part of your deal, but still review it. Still give New Zealanders the assurance that this outfit's operating in accordance with the law, that they're actually doing the problem gambling initiatives, that problem gambling harm minimisation initiatives that they said they would. But no, we don't even have this review. It is a blank cheque written by the National Party to Sky City against the wishes and values of New Zealanders, Mr Speaker, and part 2 of this bill is the guts of it. This is where the rubber hits the road, and it's time for somebody on the National Party side of the House to stand up and say, why should New Zealanders agree to regulatory concessions that are against gambling laws that we currently have? Why not have the gumption to come into this House and say, you know what, the 2003 Gambling Act's wrong, we want to liberalise it? Because that's not what they've done. They've picked off Sky City and they've said, we're going to give them power above and beyond the 2003 Gambling Act. Well, Mr Speaker, that's not what I came into Parliament for. I didn't come into Parliament to sit here and have a national government do a backroom deal and come into this House and tell me the laws that have previously been passed don't matter. We're just going to do everything by deals and agreements. That's not democracy. That's not how this House is meant to work. The National Party should be ashamed.
Dr. John Yang.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I rise to support the International Convention Centre Bill. I would like to follow up on the previous speaker's speech. Now, throughout its 35-year extension of its casino license, Sky